The full kit for Colombina has finally been revealed, and she is truly the lunar archon that we have all been waiting for. Let's talk about it. Welcome to Jello Impact, where we build and test every single character to help you decide who you want to wish for and build. The version Luna 3 banners featuring Durin and Venti are almost here. If you're planning on spending on these or any future banners, let me recommend Loot Bar. I have been personally using Loot Bar for over a year. They are safe, using currency exchange to get you discounts on the crystals you were going to buy anyway. They have tens of thousands of 5-star reviews, and by clicking my link, you can save over 25% on all of your purchases. It's very easy to use. Just click the pack you want, enter your in-game UID and region, and your top-up is delivered in minutes. New users get a 10% off coupon, and returning users get a 5% and 3% for clicking my link. Also, if you plan on buying currency for Milliastra Wonderland or other games like Zenless Zone Zero or Honkai Star Rail, you can also purchase that through Loot Bar. It's partnerships like these that allow me to continue bringing the content that I do, as well as supporting my family. So thanks to Loot Bar for sponsoring the video. First off, we are featuring this beautiful sketch that we received from someone. Apparently this is a sketch of Columbina's burst. So if you wanted to know what her burst animation looks like, apparently this is a very accurate depiction. So that's what we're featuring today. So Columbina, who is she? She's Hydro HP scaling. Her weapon is a catalyst. By the way, I made a first impressions, whatever on the very early information we received about Columbina, and everything that was shown or talked about was accurate. Obviously, we have a lot more information now, but everything that we did receive was true. Also, she will be getting a brand new artifact set. We're gonna make a full video on that artifact set very, very soon. Look forward to that like today or tomorrow. It's looking extremely, extremely strong. The artifact set basically just boosts her off-field damage, but we're gonna talk about the implications of it on other characters as well. If you play her as an on-fielder, she will probably use the DPS artifact set, and that's where we get into her kit. So for her normals, she actually has real normal attacks if you're using her with Dendro characters. Not Electrocharge, not Geo, but with Dendro characters. With Dendro characters, her charge attack can deal Lunar Bloom damage. Very, very interesting. The same way that Nefer's charge attacks are converted into Lunar Bloom damage, so will Columbina's, which is really, really cool. So those of you who want to use Columbina as an on-fielder at C0, probably aim for Lauma, maybe even Nefa, and probably Nahida, I'm guessing. But we'll see how it all goes. Most likely, that will be Columbina's best way of being an on-fielder. But most of her kit's power budget is into her off-field. I expect this will be good, probably better than using Lauma as an on-fielder, probably quite a bit better, to be honest. But I do expect, obviously Nefer to be better if you've got Columbina as an off-fielder. But yeah, if you want to use Columbina as an on-fielder, this is going to be good. But most of her power budget, as I said, is going to be off-fielder. So her skill, 25-second duration, 17-second cooldown, so 100% uptime. A pretty short cooldown will allow her to fit seamlessly into the shorter rotation characters like Flynn's and Nefer, and 25-second duration allows her to fit seamlessly into other characters. And since, as I kind of have alluded to, she enables lunar reactions, you will be able to play her with non-Nod Cry characters and still get the lunar reaction, like the improved lunar reaction, because as much as Lunar Charge is not that much better than Electrocharged, it is better, and it is definitely cooler, and it helps you against Nod Cry shill mechanics. So yes, Columbina will be able to enable that. It's part of the passive. We'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, her skill, 25-second duration, 17-second cooldown, follows character, so not circle impact, and deals AoE hydro damage. So she'll probably be our premier AoE hydro applier just across the board overall. And how her mechanics work is that she gains stacks when lunar damage is dealt. So it could be Lunar Crystallize, which is the new lunar reaction, Lunar Charged, and of course Lunar Bloom. So she gains these stacks when any lunar damage is dealt by the team. When she hits max stacks, it triggers a big attack, and she deals elemental damage based on the type of lunar damage that was most done. So like whatever lunar damage did the highest, she deals that type of lunar damage. So it could be Lunar Charged, Lunar Bloom, or lunar crystallized damage when she gains max stacks, and she will actually deal that other type of damage, which is, to me, this is just so cool, and hopefully comes with really cool animations. It makes her really feel like the Archon, the lunar Archon, as opposed to just like another Hydro Archon that's kind of different. So actually dealing damage of these types is really, really cool and really, really fun. And again, she can do it even without other Nodcry characters on the team. Of course, using other Nodcry characters will still be the strongest way to play her, because it just is the way that their kits are. They just deal more damage than most other characters in these types of teams, but it doesn't mean that she can't do it without them, which is just great. Her burst, 20-second duration, 15-second cooldown, 60 cost. So again, very, very friendly to gameplay friendly. So 20-second duration, 15-second cooldown, over 100% uptime, and a short refreshing window. And only 60 cost means it won't be too hard to build enough energy for her. Very, very nice. It deals AoE hydro damage, and it boosts lunar reaction damage. So pretty simple stuff. Obviously, there's more names and everything in this kit, but I wanted to simplify it down and break it down so it's just very easy to understand for you guys, because Genshin's very, very wordy. And then her passives, she makes all reactions lunar, so Geo, Electro, and Dendro. She gains up to 15% crit rate by building stacks, and then she buffs lunar damage. And then she also has a revive for the overworld in Nodcry, which is pretty cool. A lot of her power budget is balanced around doing a lot of off-field damage, and she does require lunar reactions to happen to deal off-field damage. So if you're wondering, no, she does not work with Skirk at all, because Skirk, there's no room for lunar reaction damage in there, but she will work with other characters, and we'll talk about that in the team section. If you had, in the team section, let's do that next. It's very early to be doing team calcs, and characters are basically going to fall into one of two camps. They're either going to be best in slot with Columbina, or have their ass carried by Lunar Wheelchair, and Lunar Wheelchair is basically Columbina plus Inefa. So, for example, Flynn's, Nefer, Lauma, Inefa, these characters in just various combinations are going to just be best in slot. It's going to be crazy. So far, the numbers are at least looking Skirk level at a very minimum, and we'll talk about some numbers later, but at a very minimum, it's looking to be at or above Skirk level. I don't want to give too high of promises at the moment. They could be substantially higher than that for some teams, but I don't want to talk too highly because I expect things to be changed and shifted around when it comes to calcs. Calcs at this point in the beta cycle are very, very, very unreliable, not just because things can change with how we understand how the kits work, but also because numbers change. So I don't want to talk too heavily about calcs, but we will talk about some right at the very end. Lunar Wheelchair are characters that these things will or could work, and they could very well be best in slot, but it's mostly about the wheelchair being best in slot. Also, the brand new character Zibai, pronunciation, I don't know, will be a Geo Lunar DPS, and they're coming out right after Columbina, so obviously that'll be overall best in slot too. So, okay, so if we go through this, Lunar Wheelchair, I don't think that someone like Veressa would be best in slot with Lunar Wheelchair. I think that that's probably going to be a no. Obviously, someone like, we'll put Mizuki in there. Why not give her some time in the spotlight? I could see Shaska doing really well with Lunar Wheelchair, but I think her Durin stuff is quite good as well. And she's just not getting really as many buffs. So it'll work, but it won't necessarily like accentuate her kit. I could see Clorand maybe Lunar Wheelchairing. I could see it working. I do expect Arlecchino Lunar Wheelchair to be extremely, extremely good. So why is that? Currently, Inefa, Yelan, and Aino are on the higher end of her teams, maybe not her peak teams right now, but kind of on the higher end. And Colombina is just so much better than Aino that I do expect this to be best in slot for Colombina by a pretty wide margin. So that would be Colombina, Inefa, maybe Bennett if there's enough Hydro application, or maybe, which would be crazy, or maybe you need to run double Hydro. We'll have to see. Lunar Wheelchair is almost certainly going to be best in slot for Chiori. Lunar Crystallize counts as Geo Constructs, so Chiori will actually work with lunar stuff, so that's pretty exciting. Navia, I'm going to put it in maybe. Currently, we'll talk about it more when we go over the kits for Iluga and Jibai, which are the Geo characters in the second half, but depending on how it interacts with Navia, it might not work at all. It might work well. I'm not sure. We'll have to wait and see. It might prevent you from running Bennett though, which would be bad for Navia's damage, so it will really be a wheelchair team if it does work. Novelet, I mean, of course, Novelet, Lunar Wheelchair will probably be the best. It will be his most wheelchair team ever though, assuming we replace Farina. It could be Inefa and Columbina and you run triple Hydro, but then you're losing stacks, so I doubt that's going to work. So you'd end up replacing Farina, in which case you're really wheelchairing Novelet. So I don't know about that. It might be best in slot, but we'll have to see. Without damage numbers, it's really hard to tell who will actually be best in slot, right? It could be so strong that it's just everybody, but I'd rather be a little conservative for now. I'd be shocked if it wasn't Raiden's best team, personally. Same with most Hydro characters. Hu Tao, for sure. Hu Tao's best team already is with Yehoda, Farina, and Inefa, so putting Colombina in there is definitely going to be an improvement. Yeah, of course, there's Hyperbloom Raiden. Obviously, yeah, other Hyperbloom characters, Alhaitham, Sino, Nilou, probably Aoife, sure. Yeah, we can put Nahida up there. I think you'll still really want Lauma for Hyperbloom teams, but Columbina is definitely going to be the best in slot for all of those teams. Maybe it's best in slot for Wanderer. If it is, he's probably on VV. Yeah, Albedo should work pretty good as well. Like Chiori and Albedo should be pretty comparable with Chiori. Well, Albedo might actually just be always better. Buffing EM also buffs lunar crystallized stuff, but at least Chiori will be close. The thing about Moika is not being able to, like, you can't melt, but you can vape, but you will still need Inefa because you need to do some sort of lunar reaction damage, and you still need a Night Soul character, which means that you can't run Bennett. So I don't think it's going to be best for Moika. You know, someone like Moika, Skirk, Baresa, I'm going to go with no. Someone said Eonson. Yeah, Eonson doesn't provide enough electro uptime to make lunar charge happen. That would have been funny though if he did. Yeah, maybe Varesa. Varesa could work, I suppose, but I think it's quite unlikely. Ito, almost certainly. Klee, you could put Klee there. I mean, I suppose it could be Xiao and you just ignore buffing Xiao. It could be Farzan. Wait, it could be Farzan, Inefa, Colombina. Yeah, I could see it. I'm not gonna lie. Overvape Duran. I could see Overvape Duran. Who would that be? Colombina, Inefa, Bennett? But then you don't have Mona. You'd have to take away Bennett and then you're not. I think Duran is a support that could work with lunar teams, but it's not gonna be like his DPS team. But I think he could work in some overvape situations. I think this is how it's looking right now. That's not to say that characters couldn't go up or down, but this is just kind of like for fun. This is kind of what I think currently. Someone said Kuki. I mean, yeah, she's the Hyper Bloom trigger. Lunar Bloom Kanich. Maybe. I'm gonna give that a big maybe. Like Game. Razor. I mean, maybe Razor. How would you do Razor? You'd give up on Bennett. You'd have Lunar charged from him and Colombina, and you'd have Duran be vaping. Do you give up on Overload on Chevreuse? It's not impossible that would be better. It's not impossible that there's something you could cook with Razor. I think Razor, Colombina, and Inefa, Duran. Yeah. I think this will be okay for Yai. Linny wants Pyro on the enemy, which means you're not getting his passive. I doubt that's going to be any good. Not as as the rest of them, but I doubt it's particularly good. All right, this is what I think in terms of team stuff right now. Let me know if you agree or disagree. And then I've been saving this for the last because it is information that I do want to talk about, but I don't want to cause alarm bells too much. So these are some early calcs. So the only calcs I've seen, they're done by Vomfi. He has Nefer at 150k DPS and Flynn's at 130. 130 is right around Skirk. Depending on the combos you're doing. I think 130 is an achievable combo for Skirk, but Flynn's has no combo. So this is just free damage with Flynn. So overall, Flynn's would be better than Skirk. Oh, I would say overall at this time. And then this would be better than Moika. All Moika except for the craziest hyper optimized combos. And even then, it's pretty kind of close actually to Moika's hyper optimized combo. It clears normal melt Moika by a very significant margin, and it will be significantly easier to play than the crazy combo Moika. So either this is wrong or it's going to get nerfed. There's no way that this is not acceptable damage, in my opinion, for Nefer at this time. This is what I would more expect. 130 to 135 is the damage I would expect, you know, being slightly better than Skirk, being right around Moika. That's normal Moika. That's what I would expect. I don't expect this to make it to live, but if it does, then the game balance is cooked. But normally this kind of thing doesn't last. So do not count on this. Do not count on this last. Yeah, we all just gotta take a chill pill. Nefer going from 108k DPS to 150, just too much of an increase. And if you're wondering why the increase is so much better for Nefer than Flynn's, I guess it's just Columbina's Lunar Bloom scalings are just higher than her Lunar Charge scaling. So that's what I expect to get nerfed. This is more than Moika. 99% of people playing Moika are getting 135 to 1. Even if you're doing the charge dash combo, you're still barely reaching 150. So this would just be too much. People saying it's time for Mav to be power crept. I don't think you guys realize how much damage this would be. This would be an absolute stupid amount of damage. This would be bad for the game. Like, this would be, if they did HP inflation to be in, if this is like the new expected DPS, like 130 to 150, if that's the new expected DPS, then most of the cast would just feel like shit. Right now, Skirk and Moika are kind of outliers. If Skirk becomes the normal, then the game balance is cooked. But I don't want to set alarm bells because I don't think that this will. So we'll come back to this. But make sure you subscribe if you want to see updates. I'll keep you updated, and let me know your thoughts. And of course, Artifact video coming, and then Jibai video coming right after that. So in the next day or two. So let me know your thoughts. Take care. Bye for now.